Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'll be doing a review on this 2011 Alfa Romeo Giulietta. Now first off, a little history about the Alfa Romeo Giulietta, and it was first released back in 2010 as a direct replacement of the Alfa Romeo 147. Alfa Romeo are also one of the oldest car manufacturers in the car market today, and it was their 100th anniversary when this car was first released and put on sale. So they knew they couldn't cock this car up or it would have been extremely awkward back at Alfa HQ. In the appearance aspect, I'll be very truthful, and Alfa have done very well. All the dimensions on the car are all nicely proportionate, and it has aged pretty well considering this car is 9 years old. And you don't really see many on the road, which kind of makes it kind of unique. But although this car has great looks and is quite relatively cheap, parts are really expensive for it. So when buying it second hand, make sure you have a thorough inspection before you go ahead and make a purchase. As for the engine, the one in this review is the 2-litre diesel with around 170 brake horsepower. If you know me personally, you would know I'm not a huge fan of diesels because they're a bit dull, especially for an Alfa Romeo. Nonetheless, the Giulietta does also come with a less powerful 1.6 diesel engine, a turbocharged 1.4 petrol engine, and a marginally more powerful 2-litre petrol engine as well. Moving towards the rear of the Alfa Romeo Giulietta now, and if you're quite unfamiliar with the Giulietta, when you try come around and try open the boot, you'd realise there's no latch to put your hand underneath and open the boot. Well, Alfa have changed the game, and all you have to do is just press the Alfa badge and it should unlatch, and then you should be able to open the boot. Pretty thief-proof, I must say. And now let's move on to the interior of the Alfa Romeo Giulietta, and I'm afraid to say the interior cabin is not as good as the exterior design of the car. Reason being because a majority of the buttons in this interior are from Fiat, a brand I don't really like, and I think it's just Alfa Romeo tradition to have amazing exterior design and just poor interior quality. Nonetheless, there are some things that I really do like about the Giulietta's interior. So for example, the seats are amazing. They have amazing side bolstering. The gear shifter knob feels great to touch and it makes you just love shifting. And the dials as well, they're amazing. And I think it's probably the best in its class. Onto something that's pretty unique to Alfas, and that is when you first start the car, you get a little needle sweep. If you don't know what I mean by that, here's a little clip to show you what I mean. I think it's pretty cool. Whilst we're talking about dials, I just want to talk about when you turn off the car and on the little screen you get a little Giulietta just driving off into the distance. And fun fact, when you actually get into the car, you actually get the same little screen animation but a Giulietta driving towards you. Pretty funny. Onto something that the owner told me about that I didn't really know of, and that is the fact this car comes with Bluetooth, obviously, but the Bluetooth only allows phone calls and you can't really listen to music from it, so that's kind of a bummer. Now let's go for a little drive in the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. Now first impressions, it does feel a tad bit wider than the regular hatchbacks on the road today, but I could immediately tell this car is very darty. I don't think the fact that the steering wheel is quite big helps with that, but this car does have a limited slip differential, so it does help around corners. Just a little bit more discussion on the engines, and this is the 2-litre Veloce model, which is, I've already mentioned it, but it's obviously a step up from the 1.6 diesel. Now the 4-cylinder turbocharged engine in this Alfa Romeo makes around 170 brake horsepower and 258 pounds-foot of torque, which is respectively 65 more brake horsepower and 22 more pounds foot of torque than the 1.6 diesel engine. The gearbox and transmission in this car are actually perfect. It's probably the best. I drove a Mini Cooper S and it's actually quite similar to that. This car's done 112,000 miles, and I can't believe how good the gearbox is actually, to be fair. I'm surprised. But Alfas, they do make great gearboxes. This car does also come with a automatic gearbox as well, but I'm glad the owner has chosen the manual, because the manual is so much better than the automatic box. I think this review might be slightly biased because I do love Alfa Romeos. I kind of want one for my next car actually, an Alfa Romeo 4C. But I don't think that car could cope with, you know, full-on day-to-day driving. Nonetheless, car tax-wise, I think it is a cheap car to run. I think the facelifts actually have a cheaper car tax than the older ones. So this one, I think the car tax is around 125 quid, whereas the facelifted ones are 25 quid, I believe. But if you do go for the facelift, you actually do get a tad bit of upgrades. I think to a normal person they wouldn't notice, but interior wise you do get like a full-on navigation infotainment system. So it's a good car. It's a good car. It's actually surprised me for the price that this car is, maybe under 4 to 5 grand. It's so good, so good. Just be careful with the higher mileage ones, you may run into some issues. I think like if I spent a couple more days or weeks with this car, I would start running into issues. But you know, you never know. You have to be picky with every single car. I feel like when getting a Giulietta, you're either going to get a good one or you're going to just get an awful one, and that you're just going to run into loads of issues and problems. But this car's done quite a bit of miles, so it would be quite interesting to know what type of issues the owner has run into. Like I said, you can message him. I'll leave his links in the description box below if you are interested in Giuliettas and want to know before you start diving into that Alfa lifestyle. Yeah, but the only thing missing from this car to make it a solid car is the sound. But this is a diesel, so you're not going to get any of that. So I think there's a performance variant at the Giulietta. I think it's called a QV or something Italian that I can't pronounce. But I reckon that would be a great car for the price if it's cheap. Another thing about the pedals as well, there's no footrest on your left hand side, so you kind of just have to slightly rest it on the clutch, and it's just a bit annoying. You also do get the classic DNA switch in the Alfa Romeo, but you have to hold it down for a few seconds. You can't just press it and, you know, you go into dynamic mode. But you've got dynamic, natural I believe, and all weather. But when you do whack it into dynamic, it does start to pick up a little bit. There's no adaptive dampers with the dynamic mode, so I think it just makes the steering a slightly bit tighter and heavier. Whoa. And the throttle response way more responsive. Wow, big. It's quite noticeable actually. So there you go guys, that's my review of the 2011 Alfa Romeo Giulietta. I'll say I'm not a huge fan of the diesels, but I could imagine the petrol variants are a lot more fun. After all, it's an Alfa Romeo and these cars have a lot of character, and that's something you don't get with the classic VW group. Last of all, I'd like to say thank you to the owner who's let me review his car. I'll leave his handles in the description box below. Make sure you go give him a follow, and thank you for watching.